Here to react, I'd like to bring in Trump 2020 Advisory Board member Jenna Ellis-Reeves and Fox News contributors Doug Schoen and Deneen Borelli. Doug, let me start with you.
Sure.
Ted Lieu seemed pretty excited. I know Al Green sent out some sort of message saying, hey, maybe those Democrats on the fence won't be there anymore. From what I saw today, it did not feel like a substantive win for the Democratic Party, and it really felt, to be quite honest with you, that Mueller himself was disorganized and just really he really seemed to be fumbling along.
Well, that was my impression, Charles. Look, I am probably somebody who has been telling the Democrats, move on. My view after today, or what's part of today has been transpired, move on. No home runs, no knockouts, no real change. And Bob Mueller, by dint of his body language, didn't convince me of anything I hadn't already believed.
Deneen?
I was waiting for Bob Mueller to say, what report are you talking about? He could not respond to basic questions. Yeah. The man didn't write this report, Charles. I think he's just a figurehead for the anti-Trump lawyers that wrote this report. He could not answer basic questions. Where are the El Cid memes? He's just a prop, doesn't know what's going on. And yeah, he was very tired and low energy, whatever, but doesn't even know what's supposed to be in his report.
Yeah, Jenna, I mean, he didn't recall names. He didn't know Corey Lewandowski. On issues of the law itself, he had to refer the paperwork. Of course, he had someone sitting with him as well to help him out. It's just, from a legal perspective, did you glean anything here that was new?
You know, what I gleaned from this is that it was very surprising that Robert Mueller wouldn't even engage in a basic legal question like, does the Attorney General have the power to exonerate? I mean, that's not something that is even debatable. That is a simple legal answer. That's like saying, is the United States Constitution the supreme law of the land? We don't need to debate over this. So the fact that he wasn't even willing to answer those simple legal questions really was surprising here. And I think that all that we gleaned from the hearing today was that the Democrats and their circus would have been better off without Mueller even in the chair, because he was so confused. He clearly didn't know responses to other basic questions. But from a legal perspective, Charles, we are living in the past. We're asking the same questions that we asked and answered when the report first came out, and the legal conclusion, not the political one that the Democrats are searching for, but the legal question here is that President Trump has the presumption of innocence. There have been no charges with him or anyone associated with the campaign. That is still the conclusion after today's hearing.
And that's something I think Representative Ratcliffe brought up. I want to share just the sound from him discussing this with Robert Mueller.
You wrote 180 pages. 180 pages about decisions that weren't reached, about potential crimes that weren't charged or decided. I agree with the chairman this morning when he said Donald Trump is not above the law. He's not. But he damn sure shouldn't be below the law, which is where Volume 2 of this report puts him.
And Deneen, that's another narrative that's coming out of this. And you kind of alluded to the fact that, hey, you know, there were people who were part of this investigative team that had animosity toward President Trump. There were things done, inconsistencies. Some people had charges filed against them. Others did not. Those inconsistencies were never resolved. We never understood why, the origins of this, this faulty document that started this whole thing off, why that wasn't, attacked, but there were other, convictions made.
Well, this was all part of the Circus Act, Charles. You have people that were on the prosecutorial team who donated to Hillary Clinton. Some of them went to her victory party, even though there wasn't a victory. So none of this is really challenged when it comes to Mueller when he was testifying today. But when you look at what the Democrats are really doing here, they're trying to impeach President Trump. And they were hoping to get something to sink their teeth in today, and they didn't get it. This was a no-win for them.
At the first break, Fox News host Chris Wallace actually slammed the Democrats, and he took it, sort of said it was a disaster also for Robert Mueller. But he did condemn the Democrats. President Trump went on to tweet what Wallace said. Is there any chance that this could actually hurt Democrats for 2020, Doug?
It could hurt Democrats in the sense that I think after today there will be no momentum for impeachment, or it'll be limited to Adam Schiff and Jerry Nadler. So I don't think this is going to be a fatal problem. But again, my advice to the Democrats, Move on. Talk about issues. If you think you can win the election or win impeachment with what happened today, you're wrong.
But if you look at networks, if you're scanning around the TV, you might see, hey, President Trump not exonerated. You're going to see these kind of headlines in the media. I'm sure that's going to embolden some Democrats to say we got over 90 votes for impeachment. This is it. Let's take one more push at this thing.
A mistake if they do it. Big mistake. Yeah, there'll be those headlines, but there have been those headlines before. And Charles, as I sit here now, my advice is move on.
And they're still saying there's collusion with the president. So they're not listening.
No, they're not listening. Hey,
they're doubling down.
Jenna, we're still, of course, waiting. At the very beginning, Robert Mueller said, he mentioned the FBI and the Justice Department and what they're working on. What are your thoughts on what comes next with this legally?
Yeah, I think that the Inspector General's report will definitely have some very interesting, legal implications. I think that the Attorney General is definitely working on that. And the really big bombshell here as well is that Comey actually had a spy, now reports are saying, inside the White House to spy on President Trump. I mean, none of this is looking good for the Democrats or for anyone that, President Trump very clearly exercising his Article 2 authority by dismissing Comey and the Democrats saying, oh, that was something terrible. It's outside the scope of his authority. That wasn't. I think that the Mueller report and everything that was contained in there, that has been put to bed. But what now is going to happen as far as the investigation, the Steele dossier, the IG's report, all of those things, that's what we need to focus on. And that's going to scare the Democrats for 2020. And I think that's why they're so focused on impeachment.
It's looming large for sure. Jenna, Doug, Deneen, thank you all very much. Appreciate it.